So we moved to valence bond theory of coordination compounds. We have discussed many compounds based on VB theory. And this session we start with another molecule and we have to explain the formation of that molecule, that is a coordination compound, using VB theory. So we take here the molecule is, the compound is CuNH3 4 times SO4 or CuNH3 4 times 2 plus. This is called copper ammonium sulfate. That is the trivial name, copper ammonium sulfate, or the IUPAC name is tetramine copper 2 sulfate. Tetramine copper 2 sulfate. So we have to explain the hybridization and structure of this particular coordination compound. So in this particular compound, the central metal atom is copper, and we know the configuration of copper is 3d10 4s1. So in this compound, the copper is existing in the plus 2 oxidation state. That means 2 electrons has to be lost from the central metal atom. See here, we have 3d10 4s1 configuration. So one electron will be lost from the 4s orbital and another electron will be lost from the 3d5 or 3d10 orbital. So two electrons will be lost. So one electron from the 4s orbital and another 3d10 electron or the paired electrons in the 3d5 orbital. Now in the excited state, the electron has to be lost and we could write the configuration Cu2 plus ion in the ground state configuration is 3d9 4s0 4p0. So copper is in the plus 2 oxidation state and the configuration of copper 2 ion will become 3d9 4s0 and 4p0. Take down. Now we have to see how copper is forming the compound. So as per VB theory, the central metal atom copper should make available 4 vacant orbitals. Why 4 vacant orbital? Because 4 ligands are there. So the central metal atom should make available 4 vacant orbital to accommodate the electron pairs from the ammonia molecule, or ammonia is the ligand here. So it supply a pair of electron to the 4 vacant orbitals of copper 2 plus ion. And we may expect 1s is free and 3p orbitals are free. So we may expect 1s and 3p orbital undergo sp3 hybridization. But actually what happens is the electron present in the 3d orbital, that is the unpaired electron present in the 3d orbital. Listen carefully. The unpaired electron which was present in the 3d orbital get excited to the pz orbital, that is the 4pz orbital. This is 3d orbital, this is 4s orbital, this is 4p orbital. So the electron from the 3d get excited to the 4pz orbital. So what happens now? 1 3d, 1 4s and 2 4p orbital undergoes hybridization. We expected an sp3 hybridization, but actually the electron from the d orbital got excited to the pz orbital, and now 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 orbitals are vacant. Which are the 4 orbitals? 1 3d, 1 4s, and 2 4p orbitals. They are having different shape and energy. They undergo hybridization to form d sp2 hybrid orbitals. d sp2 hybrid orbitals having same energy and shape. See here, they undergo d sp2 hybrid orbitals. Take down. Now see here, the d sp2 hybrid orbitals orient in three-dimensional space in a square planar manner to have minimum repulsion and maximum stability. So they will be orienting in a square planar manner d sp2 hybrid orbitals, and electron pairs from 4 ammonia molecule enters into these orbitals. So we expected an sp3 hybridization, but the hybridization is d sp2 hybridization, and the molecule is paramagnetic because of one unpaired electron in the pz orbital. And here the inner d orbital is taking part in hybridization, so it is a inner orbital complex. In short, we could say CuNH3 4 times SO4 is dsp2 hybridized, square planar in geometry, paramagnetic, and inner orbital complex. Take down. Now we have to see what are the drawbacks of VB theory. VB theory does not give a quantitative interpretation of magnetic data. So it gives whether the molecule is paramagnetic or diamagnetic, but the value does not give a quantitative interpretation. Why the value is 1.73 or 3.23, etc., etc. VB theory was not able to give that experimental interpretation. It does not explain the color exhibited by coordination compounds. Coordination compounds shows brilliant colors. Why the color or the spectrum of the coordination compound could not be explained by VB theory. And it could not be able to explain about the stabilities, kinetic or thermodynamic stability of coordination compounds. And it was not able to exactly predict the tetrahedral and square planar structures of 4 coordinate complexes. In some molecule, they misinterpreted tetrahedral complex as square planar complex and square planar complex as tetrahedral complex. And it does not distinguish between weak and strong ligands. That means why certain coordination compounds are inner orbital complex, or why certain coordination compounds are outer orbital complex. And they were not able to explain about this. These are the important drawbacks of VB theory. Take down. So we have seen the postulates of VB theory, and using VB theory we explained the hybridization and structure of many coordination compounds. But VB theory failed to explain certain aspects, experimental and observed aspects of coordination compound. To overcome the drawbacks of valence bond theory, a new theory was proposed, and that theory is called CFT, or crystal field theory. It is also called as ligand field theory, LFT. So, in crystal field theory, they brought certain assumptions, certain conditions, certain what you can say postulates, and based on that assumptions, they were able to explain almost all drawbacks of VB theory. So we have to see what is crystal field theory and what is their proposals. So crystal field theory was developed by Benthe and Van Helek. So they consider the interaction between metal ion and ligand are electrostatic interaction. So it is not a covalent interaction, but it is an electrostatic interaction. That means the interaction is between positive and negative charges. Or we can say the metal and the ligands are purely ionic in character. The interaction of metal and ligands are purely ionic in character, and this is due to the electrostatic interaction between the positive and negative charge of the metal and ligands respectively. Since these interactions are similar to that present in crystals, we know in ionic solids cations and anions are interacting. So in crystals, basically the ionic interactions are occurring. So it is called as crystal field theory. And the crystal field theory treats each ligand as point of negative charges. Ligands are point of negative charges. Why? Because ligands are negatively charged, or they can be having a lone pair of electrons present in them. So the metal ion should be positively charged, the ligand ion should be negatively charged, or it will be electron rich centers if the molecule is neutral. So we can say when the molecule is neutral, the ligands are considered as dipoles with a negative end of lone pairs. So the metal or the metal ion will be in the positive charge, and the ligands will be negatively charged or negative rich centers as in the case of neutral molecules. So automatically the interaction is electrostatic. A positively charged metal ion interacting with a opposite charge, negative charge. So purely the interaction is electrostatic. Then the arrangement of these ligands around the central metal ion in such a way that the repulsion between the negative points is minimum. So around the metal, when we place the ligands are negatively charged or negative rich centers. So negative repulsion should be minimum, so that the ligand should be placed at maximum distance around the central metal ion. These are the basic proposals of crystal field theory. Take down. So crystal field theory considers the relative energies of d orbitals of the central metal ion and the effect of the ligands. So the ligands interact with the d orbitals of the central metal ion, because all the 5 d orbitals are having equal energy, but their alignment or electron density orientations are in different direction. So, for the central metal ion, there is no interaction between the interaction from the external field. Hence, all the 5 d orbitals are having equal energy and they remain as such together. If all the 5 d orbitals are remaining together as such, it is called a degenerate orbitals. Degenerate orbitals. I told you, d orbitals are having different direction of electron density, but they stay together when there is no external field. That condition is called degeneracy, or the orbitals are degenerate. If a field is applied around the central metal ion or around the d orbital in a spherical manner or a symmetrical manner, the d orbitals will remain as such without any splitting. So if the ligand is exerting the negative charge interaction in a spherical manner around the central metal ion, all the 5 d orbitals remain as such without any change in splitting, or they remains degenerate. Okay, so moving forward we will understand maximum. Okay, take down. Now taking specific example or specific geometry, we are going to discuss crystal field theory. So here I am taking an octahedral field. We know what is octahedral shape. Around the metal atom at 4 corners of a square, the ligands are there. Above the plane of the square there is a ligand. Below the plane of the square there is a ligand. And the distance from the ligand to the central metal atom for all 6 ligands are same. So that is a octahedral field. Now see here, we are going to apply crystal field theory. How crystal field impacts, how the field of the ligand is going to impact the d orbitals present in a metal ion in an octahedral field. So I have the central metal ion with the d orbitals, and these d orbitals are going to experience the field produced by the negatively electron rich ligands. So how it happens? See here, I have 5 d orbitals here. These are the shape of 5 d orbitals. This is a dx square minus y square. That means the electron density is along the x and y axis. The electron density is along the axis x and y axis. This is a dz square. The electron density is maximum along the z axis. And I have dxy. In case of dxy, listen carefully, dxy, the electron density is maximum between the y and x axis. The electron density is between the x and y axis. When I take dxz, the electron density is maximum between x and z axis. When I move to dyz, the electron density is maximum between y and z axis. That means when I consider these 5 d orbitals, first 2 d orbitals, dx square minus y square and dz square, are having electron density along the axis, while for 3 remaining orbitals, the electron density is between the axes. So we could say among the 5 d orbitals could be classified into 2 types. 3 orbitals are having electron density between the axes, dxy, dxz and dyz. While two orbitals dx square minus y square and dz square are having electron density along the axis. Got it? See here? So I have these orbitals here. So I am classifying these three are having same symmetry or same electron density between the axes. Which are they? dxy, dxz and dyz. While two others are there, dx square minus y square and dz square. They are having the electron density along the axis. So when there is no field produced by the ligand, these five orbitals remain together. They stay together. They remain without splitting. And that state is called the degenerate state. So when the metal ion is present alone, all the d orbitals stay together and it is called the degenerate state. But when the ligand approaches, repulsion occurs. See, if the ligand is approaching along the axis, interaction occurs. As a result, these electron density of d orbitals undergo maximum repulsion. Why? Here we have electron pairs or electrons and the ligands are bringing negative electronic charge here along the z-axis or x-axis or y-axis. But see here, these orbitals are between the axis. So when electron density come along the x-axis, this orbital undergoes minor repulsion compared to these two orbitals. So when ligand produce field and the ligand field is approaching to the d orbitals of the central metal ion, the central metal ion having 5d orbitals undergoes splitting. They split into two. Three orbitals stay together, dxy, dxz and dyz. While two orbitals stay together, they are dx square minus y square and dz square. So in an octahedral, the ligand field are approaching along the axis, that is through the x, y, z axis. Hence, the dz square and dx square minus y square, they have the electron density along the axis, have maximum repulsion, while these three orbitals having minimum repulsion. Got it? Take down. See here, this is octahedral geometry. See, this is the axis, z-axis, x-axis, y-axis. So the ligands are approaching along the axis. See, here a ligand is coming from z-axis. See, another ligand is coming from the z-axis. Then four more ligands. Two ligands are coming from the y-axis, on here, on here. Another two ligands are coming along the x-axis. So the ligand fields are approaching to a central metal ion placed here along the axis and repulsion occurs. To whom? The orbitals having electron density along the axis. Which are the orbitals present along the axis? dz square and dx square minus y square. So Since the ligand is approaching the metal ion along the XX, YY and Z axis, the electrons in the dz square and dx square minus orbitals which are along the axis experience greater repulsion. Why? This is the electron pairs from the ligands. This is electron of the d orbitals, and dxy, dxz and dyz which lie between the axes suffers less repulsion. So 5 orbitals were together, but now these two orbitals undergo maximum repulsion while these two orbitals undergoes minimum repulsion. So the degeneracy of the d orbital get removed, or we could say the 5d orbitals split into two. dx square, dx square minus y square stay together having maximum repulsion, while three orbitals dxy, dxz and dyz they stay together away from dz square and dx square minus y square. So the 5 orbitals split into two, 3 group together while 2 in another group. Take down, very important. So I told you the 5d orbitals they were remaining together before the ligand was approaching. When the ligand approached, what happened? A field was produced, and hence the 5d orbitals split into two. 3 orbitals dxy, dxz and dyz group together, and they are called T2g orbitals. T2g orbitals. While dz square and dx square minus y square they group together and designate as Eg orbitals. Eg orbitals. Thus, see here, the 5d orbitals got splitted into two, which are the T2g group and Eg group. They stayed together. When ligand approached in an octahedral field, the two orbitals dz square and dx square minus y square undergone maximum repulsion. Maximum repulsion means maximum energy. Minimum repulsion means minimum energy. So dz square and dx square minus y square have maximum energy, while dxy, dxz and dyz have minimum energy. This splitting up of degenerate d orbitals into two groups. Which groups? T2g and Eg. How? By the influence of field produced by the ligand is called crystal field splitting. So, this splitting up of degenerate energy levels of the d orbitals into two sets, which are the T2g and Eg. Which are T2g? dxy, dxz and dyz. Why? Because they lie between the axes. And what are Eg? dz square and dx square minus y square. Why they are Eg? Because they have the electron density along the axis. And this splitting up of d orbitals into two group is called crystal field splitting. And this crystal field splitting is the basic reason for the experimental or observed phenomenon of many coordination compounds. Take down. Okay, see here. I have all the ligands approaching the central metal ion along Z, Y and X axis. So these d orbitals split into two, dz square and dx square minus y square, having maximum repulsion and maximum energy. So they group together as Eg orbitals, while three others, that means they have the electron density between the axes and they have minimum repulsion and minimum energy. So 5d orbitals around the central metal atom remained together. So what happened? Ligands approached along Z, X and Y axis. As a result, the 5d orbitals removed their degeneracy, or they undergo splitting to have Eg orbitals and T2g orbitals. See here, this is the 5d orbitals. They stayed together. So now the ligand came, repulsion occurred. These three orbitals remained together, while these two orbitals remained together. And this energy gap, see, this is the energy. If three orbitals should have minimum energy, automatically two orbitals should have maximum energy. So the total energy of these two orbitals should be equal to total energy of these three orbitals. That should be equal to this equivalent energy, because energy should be conserved. So if this is the energy level of the degenerate d orbitals, how much energy has lost by these orbitals, that should be gained by these two orbitals. So this energy gap is designated as delta or delta O. O means octahedral. And this delta value is called 10 dq value. 10 dq value. 10 dq is a specific value, like centimeter or meter we could say. That is a specific value. That is a reference value. 10 dq value. So the energy gap between T2g and Eg level when a splitting occurs for a d orbital is called 10 dq value or delta O. And this 10 dq value is called crystal field splitting energy. This energy gap is the crystal field splitting energy, or CFSE, or crystal field stabilization energy. Got the point? I hope you got the point. So degenerate d orbitals remained together. Who came? Ligand came. So splitting occurred. They split into two. Three orbitals together, T2g. Two orbitals together, Eg. The energy gap between T2g and Eg is called 10 dq value or delta O. Why it is O? Octahedral. If it is tetrahedral, it is delta T. And this gap is called crystal field splitting energy or crystal field stabilization energy. That is equal to delta O or 10 dq. Take down, draw this one. This picture is very important. Draw it. So see here, mark clear. This is the spherical field. All the 5d orbitals are remaining together. Now who came? Ligand field came. So these 5 orbitals split into two. 3 orbitals, dxy, dxz and dyz. They are called T2g orbitals. T2g orbitals have minimum energy than this d orbital, and two orbitals dz square and dx square minus y square. They are called Eg orbitals and they have maximum energy. I told you the total energy should be conserved. Listen carefully here. This orbital is having 4 dq value. I put it as minus 4 dq. This is minus 4 dq. This is minus 4 dq. So total this is equal to minus 12 dq. Okay, listen carefully. I have 3 orbitals here having energy less than the degenerate d orbital. This is the energy of the degenerate d orbital. This energy is less than the degenerate d orbital. So this orbital dxy is having energy of minus 4 dq or minus 0.4 delta O. dxz minus 4 dq. dyz minus 4 dq. That means total here we have minus 12 dq. So that this 12 dq should be tallied or cancelled by these two orbitals. So the energy of dz square is plus 6 dq, plus 6 dq, and for dx square minus y square again plus 6 dq. So plus 6 and plus 6 is plus 12. Here bottom minus 12. So the energy become this energy. So how much energy is stabilized by dxy, dxz and dyz? That much energy, that quantity of energy, that magnitude of energy is same for the destabilization of Eg orbitals. So we show it as here minus and there plus. As energy is increasing, the stability will be decreasing. So we could say these three d orbitals having minus 12 dq while this is having plus 12 dq. So net effect, the energy has conserved, and this energy gap is called 10 dq. See, I have represented delta O or 10 dq. 0.6 dq is equal to 6 dq. That is a calculation for the calculation purpose. So we could summarize. In crystal field splitting of an octahedral field, the degenerate d orbitals split into two. They are T2g orbitals and Eg orbitals. T2g orbitals are constituted by dxy, dxz and dyz, while Eg orbitals are constituted by dx square minus y square and dz square. The energy gap between Eg and T2g levels are called 10 dq or delta octahedral. The energy of each orbital of T2g level or T2g group is 4 dq, while the energy of each orbital of Eg group or Eg level is 6 dq. Right? We need this for further writing of the calculation of the crystal field stabilization energy. So take careful while drawing this one. This is T2g, this is Eg. 3 orbitals down, 2 up. This is having energy of minus 4 dq. This is having plus 6 dq. This gap is called 10 dq or delta O. So we have seen what is crystal field theory, what are the basic assumptions of crystal field theory, and how d orbitals split into two in an octahedral field, and what is the reason d orbitals is undergoing splitting into T2g level and Eg level, and what are the energies of T2g levels and Eg levels, and the energy gap between T2g and Eg levels. So my dear students, see here, this is the month of Chingam. So I am giving you Onam Sadhya for you. All dishes are there. You eat and Now everything is in online. The class is also in online. So I am providing you food in online. Eat it and be happy. And I think girls staying in home could try these dishes and prepare it so that you will be good cook. Okay, so thank you for being with me. Next week we will have our online examination up to this particular topic. So take care. Now I think the government is announcing that the number of COVID patients may increase in September. So don't wander here and there during Onam. Stay at home. Eat well. And I have doubt you people become more and more hefty now. So eat the food which is necessary for you and be happy. And I hope we could meet inside the class after September. Thank you very much, and I wish you a happy Onam in advance if I could not see you in the online next class because of some examinations, etc. Anyway, I hope I could meet you before the Onam. Anyway, I wish you happy Onam. Be happy, stay happy. Thank you very much.